So chromatography is the last one of the separation methods that you need to know for this topic. You need to describe it in quite a lot of detail. This method can be used to separate parts of mixture into separate components. The most popular example of this is when we are changing ink into different dyes so we can see what different colours make up one specific ink. So the first thing we do is we separate and dissolve this ink, this coloured mixture, into a solvent, usually water, but sometimes ethanol, and we can spot on this baseline, which we draw a pencil line on to show the baseline, that the ink starts to move up the paper as is shown in the diagram. So the paper is carefully dipped into the solvent and suspended so the baseline is just above the liquid, and it's just above so that it doesn't dissolve in the solvent. The solvent is then absorbed into the paper and it rises up as it soaks into the paper. The choice of solvent depends on the solubility of the dye, so if the dye does not dissolve in water, then you can use ethanol instead. As the solvent rises up the paper, it carries the dye with it, so each different dye will move up at different rates depending on how strongly they stick to the paper and how soluble they are in the solvent. The last thing you need to know about how to do is the RF values of chromatography paper. So RF values is the distance travelled by the solute divided by the distance travelled by the solvent. Now if we look at A and B on here, we can see that the difference travelled by the solute is the distance between the baseline and the green colour, and A is the difference between the baseline and this top line called the solvent front, and we divide those two values. So let's now have a look at a quick exam question to have a look at how we can apply these things. So the first question is relatively easy. It's give a reason why the start line is drawn in pencil rather than in ink. And the reason is that ink would also move up the chromatography paper, because if we drew it in ink, it would also be part of the experiment, if that makes sense. The mark team particularly says that it's insoluble in the solvent, but chromatography would separate the ink, which has been drawn as the X, on the ink line. The RF value again is coming up in a question, and we need to calculate the using a ruler the distance between the baseline and the top solvent front. So the answers would be 14.5 divided by 15.3, which is 0.95, if you want to go back and pause it and calculate this for yourself.